Lay out what you found, Suzanne.
Well, basically what you see is that over the last decade or so, you see a concerted effort by wealthy conservative billionaires to fund up and prop up a whole series of institutions that could work to undermine the science behind climate change and also work to undermine any kind of effort to pass legislation to deal with climate change. This money is going to think tanks, it's going to activist groups, it's going to so-called scholars, it's going to a wide range of individuals, more than 100 different organizations. And the goal here is to create this illusion, this idea that there's, a really strong movement against the science of climate change and against action on climate change. In fact, that's actually, to an extent, become a reality now. You see that opposition to action on climate change is central to Republican thinking.
Talk about the different groups.
You've got lots. You've got sort of blue chip think tanks in Washington, D.C., some of the really big institutions like the American Enterprise Institute. You've got organizations that really wouldn't exist or wouldn't, make much of an impact at all if they didn't get half their budget from Donors Trust. In that category, I would put the Committee for Constructive Tomorrow. One of its main activities is to run a website that's like a clearinghouse for articles that try and discredit the science behind climate change or, launch personal attacks against people like Al Gore or climate scientists, people who speak up against climate change. So you've got lots of different efforts going on. I mean, you've seen, I don't know if you remember, a few years back, there was this organization called Energy Citizens that was launched by Americans for Prosperity, grassroots activists against action on climate change. That, it now turns out, had funding from Donors Trust as well.
Donors Trust declined our request to join us on today's show, but the group's president and CEO, Whitney Ball, provided us with a statement. She wrote, Donors Trust was established to promote liberty and help like-minded donors preserve their charitable intent. We follow the same rules and operate in the same manner as other donor-advised funds, which include the Fidelity Charitable Gift Fund, Jewish Federations, local community foundations, and the Left of Center Tides Foundation, just to name a few. Donor-advised funds are classified as public charities and thus are not required to disclose their donors. I do not know of a donor-advised fund that makes their donor list public. The press has referred to us as a black box, labeled our funding as dark money, and Suzanne Goldenberg described us as secretive. These characterizations are unfair and misleading. How is it that the Tides Foundation, which has a record of funding environmental causes and does not publish donor lists, is never characterized in the same way by these same reporters? Your response, Suzanne Goldenberg, as she names you.
Well, oh, sure. This is the first I've heard of it. Well, I talked to Whitney Ball. I asked her flat out, can you tell me who gives to you, what kind of people give to you? And she said, no. I mean, that, in fact, is the purpose of this trust, to make the giving anonymous, to allow these conservative billionaires to remain hidden. I think, she's trying to cast this as, look, the right have their organizations, the left have their organizations. I think there's something really different here, and that comes into play, and that these organizations being supported by Donors Trust are actually working to spread information that is factually incorrect, that is untrue. It's as if you're sort of funding groups to go around saying, oh, you can get the HIV virus from toilet seats. You can't draw this equivalence here. These organizations are, were funded for the express purpose, many of them, of spreading disinformation.